The red warning lights painted everything in blood as the emergency session began. 12 different species had gathered their representatives in the great chamber of the eternal dawn. The air recyclers worked overtime to handle the different atmospheric needs, creating a constant low hum that filled the space between angry voices. Commander Wraith slammed his scaled fist on the metal table. His yellow eyes blazed with fury as he looked around the room. The Draknari had fought in more wars than any other species in the Coalition. They knew threats when they saw them. 47 star systems in less than 50 years, Wraith growled through his sharp teeth. No species has ever expanded this fast. The humans are becoming too dangerous to ignore. Admiral Senna floated in her water-filled tank, her tentacles moving in patterns that showed deep concern. The Torrid people lived in the oceans of their worlds, but their intelligence networks reached everywhere in the galaxy. When they spoke about threats, others listened. "My scouts have watched the human fleets," Senna said, her voice translated through the water speakers. "They do not follow our rules of engagement. They do not ask permission before taking new worlds. They simply arrive and claim territory as if they own the galaxy." Around the table, other representatives nodded in agreement. The Corvani delegate, a tall being with crystal-like skin, tapped his finger against his chair. The sound rang like a bell through the chamber. "We have sent diplomatic messages to their government," the Corvani said. "They respond with politeness, but they continue their expansion. They act as if our authority means nothing to them." The Velian representative, whose people looked almost human except for their silver skin and black eyes, leaned forward. "Our traders report strange things from human space. They build their cities differently than other species. Their ships use technologies we cannot identify. There is something unusual about these humans." Commander Wraith stood up from his chair. His massive frame cast shadows across the room as the red lights flickered overhead. "Unusual or not, they are still young. They have existed in space for barely a century. We have controlled this galaxy for 10,000 years. It is time to remind them who makes the rules here." The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued for economic sanctions. Others suggested a blockade of human space. But Wraith and his supporters pushed for military action. They painted pictures of human fleets threatening Coalition worlds. They spoke of the danger of letting any species grow too powerful. Admiral Senna accessed her intelligence files through the tank's computer system. Holographic displays showed human ship movements, population numbers, and military strength estimates. "According to our data, humans have approximately 2,000 warships across their territory," she reported. "Their largest vessels are impressive, but they lack the advanced weapons systems our fleets carry. Their ground forces number in the millions, but they have not faced Coalition military technology." The Draknari commander smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. 2,000 ships against the might of the entire Coalition. They have grown bold, but they have not grown wise. The vote came after 12 hours of discussion. Each species cast their decision into the central computer system. One by one, the results appeared on the main screen. The tally was unanimous. Military action was approved. General Cole of the Draknari would lead the Northern Armada. His reputation as a warrior was known throughout Coalition space. He had never lost a battle in 30 years of service. His fleet would consist of 200 ships, including 5 massive dreadnoughts capable of destroying entire planets. Admiral Pike, a member of the insectoid Zarin species, would command the Central Strike Force. His people were known for their tactical brilliance and precise military planning. His fleet carried the Coalition's most advanced weapon systems and 50,000 of their best soldiers. Captain Voss represented the mechanical Nexari, beings who had replaced most of their organic bodies with advanced technology. His southern division specialized in long-range warfare and siege tactics. His ships could strike targets from incredible distances with devastating accuracy. The 3 fleet commanders received their orders in the council chamber. Their targets were carefully chosen to send a message to humanity. The humans would learn that the Coalition's patience had limits. "Remember," Wraith told the assembled officers, "this is not just about stopping human expansion. This is about maintaining order in the galaxy. Every species watches to see how we handle threats to Coalition authority. We cannot show weakness." General Cole adjusted his armor and checked his weapons. The humans have never faced a real military power. Their expansion has been unopposed because they chose empty systems or fought primitive species. They have no idea what Coalition warfare looks like. Admiral Pike's compound eyes reflected the chamber's red lights as he studied tactical displays of human space. My analysis suggests they rely too heavily on individual ship capabilities, rather than coordinated fleet actions. Their military doctrine appears to emphasize personal courage over strategic thinking. Captain Voss ran diagnostic checks on his cybernetic systems while reviewing target information. Human defensive positions are poorly designed by coalition standards. They place too much faith in planetary shields and not enough in deep space interdiction. Their worlds will fall quickly once we establish orbital control. The planning session continued through the night cycle. Supply lines were established, communication protocols were set, and contingency plans were developed. The coalition had prepared for this type of operation many times before. Younger species often needed to be taught their place in the galactic order. As the meeting concluded, the three commanders prepared to return to their fleets. The attack would begin within the week. Coalition intelligence estimated the entire campaign would last no more than 6 months. Human resistance was expected to collapse quickly once they realized the overwhelming force arrayed against them. Eternal Dawn's communication. Arrays transmitted orders to coalition fleets. Throughout the galaxy, within hours, 600 warships were moving toward human space. The largest military operation in coalition history had begun. None of the delegates in that chamber could have imagined what was about to happen. None of them understood that they had just made the greatest mistake in their species' history. The humans they dismissed as young and inexperienced were about to teach the galaxy a lesson about the nature of true power. The countdown to disaster had begun. General Cole watched the stars shift from blue to white as his fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 200 coalition warships materialized in the Haven's Gate system, like deadly flowers blooming in the void. The Dreknari general had led many such operations, but never with a fleet this large or this well-equipped. His flagship, the Iron Resolve, hummed with power as sensor arrays began their sweep of the system. The results appeared on the main display within minutes. Haven's Gate looked exactly as Coalition intelligence had predicted. 1 habitable world, 3 small moons, a few orbital stations, and minimal defensive installations. Pathetic, muttered Colonel Thek, Cole's second-in-command. The younger Dreknari studied the tactical readout with obvious contempt. 20 orbital defense platforms and perhaps 50 patrol ships. Did the humans think such weak defenses would deter the coalition? General Cole remained silent as more data flowed across his screens. Haven's Gate supported nearly 10 million human colonists, mostly farmers and miners. The planet produced food and raw materials for other human worlds. Destroying it would send a clear message about the cost of defying coalition authority. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the human government on the planet's surface." The general nodded. "Put it through." A middle-aged human woman appeared on the main screen. She wore simple clothing and looked tired, as if she had been awakened from sleep. Her eyes showed no fear, only curiosity. "I am Governor Wells of Haven's Gate Colony," she said calmly. "Your fleet was detected at the edge of our system. State your business in human space." Colonel Thek laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "She demands to know our business, as if we need permission to be here." General Cole stepped forward to address the human leader. "I am General Cole of the Coalition Armed Forces. Your species has violated galactic law by expanding without proper authorization. This system is now under Coalition control. Surrender immediately and your people will be relocated safely." Governor Wells tilted her head slightly as if considering his words. "General, Haven's Gate was an uninhabited system when we arrived 15 years ago. We have harmed no one and threatened no one. Why do you consider our presence a violation?" "Because the Coalition governs this galaxy," Cole replied firmly. "No species may claim territory without our approval. Your rapid expansion threatens the stability we have maintained for millennia." The human woman nodded slowly. "I see. And if we refuse your demands?" "Then we will take this system by force." Governor Wells was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, and something about that expression made General Cole uncomfortable. "General, I must inform you that Haven's Gate is under the protection of powers you do not understand. I strongly advise you to withdraw your fleet and return to Coalition space." Colonel Thek snarled at the screen. "Threats from farmers and miners? What protection could you possibly have that concerns a Coalition battle fleet?" "You will discover that soon enough," Wells replied. "I am transmitting coordinates to a safe jump point beyond our system's edge. Please use them. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Iron Resolve in stunned silence. No species had ever spoken to Coalition forces with such casual confidence. The arrogance of these humans amazed even the veteran Draknari officers. "Sir," reported the sensor operator, "the human defense platforms are powering up. Their patrol ships are moving to intercept positions." General Cole studied the tactical display. The human response was exactly what he expected from a primitive species facing overwhelming odds. They would make a token resistance before surrendering. "All ships assume attack formation," he commanded. "Target the orbital platforms first, then the patrol vessels. I want this system secured within the hour." The Coalition fleet moved into position like a well-rehearsed dance. 200 warships arranged themselves in perfect formation, their weapons charging and targeting systems locked onto human positions. The Iron Resolve led the advance, its heavy guns trained on the largest orbital platform. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving multiple transmissions from the human positions." "Surrender offers?" asked Colonel Thek hopefully. "No, sir. They appear to be singing," General Cole frowned. "Singing?" The bridge speakers crackled to life with human voices raised in harmony. The song was unlike anything in Coalition databases. It seemed to resonate through the ship's hull, making the metal vibrate in strange ways. Some crew members reported feeling dizzy or disoriented. "Turn it off," Cole ordered, but the communications officer shook his head. "I cannot, sir. The signal is not coming through our receivers. It seems to be emanating from space itself." The singing grew louder and more complex. Other sounds joined the human voices, tones that no organic throat could produce, harmonies that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The very air in the ship began to shimmer with patterns of light that hurt to look at directly. "Sir," shouted the sensor operator, "I am detecting massive energy readings throughout the system. The sources are... I cannot identify them. They do not match any known technology." General Cole gripped his command chair as the Iron Resolve began to shake. Outside the viewport, space itself appeared to be changing. Stars shifted position, and new constellations formed and dissolved in seconds. The laws of physics seemed to be rewriting themselves around the Coalition fleet. "All ships report status," he barked into his communicator. Responses came back confused and frightened. Ship sensors were failing. Navigation computers could not determine their position. Some vessels reported that their crews were seeing impossible things. Corridors that led to rooms that did not exist. Equipment that operated differently than its design specifications. "General," whispered Colonel Thek, "what is happening to us?" Cole had no answer. In 30 years of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. The human singing continued, now joined by sounds that seemed to come from beings that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. The Coalition fleet, so confident and powerful just minutes before, found itself trapped in a reality that no longer followed familiar rules. The last transmission from the Iron Resolve was a fragmentary message sent automatically by the ship's emergency beacon. Coalition Command received only static and random data that made no sense. Analysis teams spent weeks trying to decode the information, but found nothing useful. Search and rescue ships arrived at Haven's Gate 3 days later. They found empty space where General Cole's fleet should have been. No debris, no energy signatures, no indication that 200 warships had ever existed. The only unusual reading was a faint resonance in space itself, like an echo of cosmic music that played just beyond the range of normal hearing. Haven's Gate remained exactly as it had been before the attack. 10 million human colonists continued their peaceful lives, tending farms and working mines as if nothing had happened. When Coalition scouts attempted to contact Governor Wells, they received no response. Long-range sensors showed normal activity on the planet's surface, but all communication attempts failed. The Coalition's most elite fleet had simply vanished, leaving behind only questions and a growing sense of unease among the remaining military commanders. The war room deep inside Coalition headquarters buzzed with nervous energy. Admiral Pike stood before the massive holographic display that showed the last known position of General Cole's Northern Armada. 3 days had passed since the fleet's disappearance at Haven's Gate, and no explanation made sense. Pike's compound eyes analyzed the data from multiple angles simultaneously. As a member of the Zarin species, his insectoid brain processed information differently than most Coalition races. Where others saw chaos, he looked for patterns. Where they found confusion, he sought logical explanations. The electromagnetic signatures are unprecedented, reported Dr. Nex, the Coalition's chief science officer. The pale Altarian gestured at the swirling data patterns with her forearms. Whatever happened at Haven's Gate left traces in subspace that we have never encountered before. Admiral Pike clicked his mandibles together, a sign of deep thought among his people. 200 ships do not simply vanish. There must be a rational explanation. Commander Wraith paced behind them, his scaled feet leaving scratches on the metal floor. The Draknari leader had lost his best general and finest fleet. His anger filled the room like heat from a furnace. Rational? Wraith snarled. There is nothing rational about this situation. The humans have done something to our forces. They must pay for this act of war. Pike turned his attention to the tactical assessments of human space. Unlike the emotional Draknari, the Jaren relied on logic and careful planning. He would not repeat whatever mistake had cost Cole his fleet. My analysis suggests we underestimated human capabilities, Pike stated calmly. Their defensive technologies appear more advanced than our intelligence indicated. The Central Strike Force will approach with greater caution. The Admiral's fleet consisted of 200 ships, just like Cole's armada, but Pike had chosen different vessels and different tactics. Where Cole favored direct assault, Pike preferred systematic dismantling of enemy capabilities. His target was New Birmingham, a human industrial world that supplied manufactured goods to dozens of colonies. 3 days later, Pike's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Birmingham system. The Admiral immediately ordered his ships to maintain maximum distance while conducting detailed sensor sweeps. He would take no chances with human surprises. Report, Pike commanded from his command throne aboard the calculated Victory. Lieutenant Zora, his Zarin sensor specialist, worked frantically at her station. Her 6 arms moved across control panels with practiced efficiency. Sir, I am detecting energy readings throughout the system that do not match any known technology in our databases. Pike's antennae twitched with interest. Elaborate. The signatures appear to be generated by the industrial facilities on the planet's surface, but they extend far beyond normal operational parameters. It is as if the entire system is connected by some form of energy network. The Admiral studied the sensor data carefully. New Birmingham looked normal from a distance. Orbital shipyards, manufacturing stations, mining operations, and transport routes all functioned as expected. But underneath the familiar pattern, something else pulsed with alien purpose. Sir, called the communications officer, we are receiving a transmission from the planet. A human male appeared on the main screen. He was young, perhaps 30 years old by human standards, with dark skin and calm eyes. He wore the simple coveralls of an industrial worker, but he spoke with the authority of a leader. I am Director Hayes of New Birmingham Industrial Cooperative, the human said. Your fleet has been detected at our system perimeter. State your intentions. Admiral Pike leaned forward in his throne. I am Admiral Pike of the Coalition Central Strike Force. This system is now under Coalition jurisdiction. Cease all industrial operations and prepare for occupation. Director Hayes nodded as if Pike had asked about the weather. I see. Are you aware of what happened to General Cole's fleet at Haven's Gate? The question sent a chill through the bridge crew. How could these humans know about Cole's disappearance? Coalition Command had not released that information to any outside source. General Cole's current status is classified information, Pike replied carefully. Hayes smiled sadly. Admiral, General Cole and his entire fleet were absorbed into the greater consciousness 3 days ago. They exist now as part of something much larger than they were before. The same fate awaits your forces if you continue this aggressive action. Lieutenant Zora's sensor readings suddenly spiked across all spectrums. Sir, energy levels throughout the system are increasing exponentially. I am detecting massive power buildups on every human installation. Pike felt his instincts screaming warnings. In his compound eyes, patterns became visible that his conscious mind could not yet understand. The energy signatures were forming geometric shapes that existed in more dimensions than normal space could contain. All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance, he ordered. Maintain sensor locks but do not approach the inner system. But it was already too late. Space around the Coalition fleet began to change in ways that violated every law of physics Pike understood. The stars stretched and bent like light passing through water. The darkness between them filled with colors that had no names. Admiral, whispered Director Hayes through the communicator. You are seeing the truth that your species is not yet ready to understand. Humanity has made contact with beings that exist beyond your current comprehension of reality. We are no longer bound by the limitations that restrict other species." Pike watched in fascination and growing terror as his fleet's instruments began reporting impossible readings. Ships detected themselves in multiple locations simultaneously. Crew members reported seeing through the eyes of colleagues on distant vessels. Time moved differently on each ship, some experiencing hours while others felt only minutes pass. "This is not possible," Pike muttered. But even as he spoke, he could feel his own perception expanding beyond his physical body. He was becoming aware of thoughts and sensations that belonged to other beings throughout his fleet. The last coherent message from the calculated victory was Pike's voice. Strangely calm and filled with wonder. Coalition Command. "We have discovered that reality is far more complex than our science assumed. The humans have become something new. They are teachers now, and we are learning." After that, only silence. The search teams that investigated New Birmingham found the same result as at Haven's Gate. No debris, no distress signals, no indication that 200 coalition warships had ever entered the system. The industrial world continued its operations normally, producing goods that were shipped to other human colonies as if nothing had happened. But deep space monitoring stations detected something new in the electromagnetic spectrum around New Birmingham. The energy patterns were more complex now, more sophisticated. It was as if the system itself had become more intelligent, more aware. Coalition scientists who studied the readings reported strange dreams afterward. They spoke of vast intelligences that existed between the stars, beings so advanced that matter and energy were merely different forms of thought to them. Most disturbing of all, they claimed these entities were not hostile to organic life. They were trying to help it evolve beyond its current limitations. 2 fleets had vanished. 400 ships and 100,000 personnel were gone without trace. The Coalition Council faced a reality they could not accept, and an enemy they could not understand. Emergency protocols had never been designed for losing 2 entire battle fleets without explanation. Captain Voss received his orders through encrypted channels, while his Southern Division conducted routine patrol operations near Coalition space. The mechanical being processed the information through multiple cognitive centers simultaneously, his artificial brain analyzing every detail. 400 ships vanished. 100,000 personnel gone without trace. No debris, no distress signals, no logical explanation. For a species that had replaced emotion with pure logic, the situation created fascinating paradoxes that demanded investigation. "Analysis complete," Voss announced to his assembled officers aboard the Digital Precision. His voice carried no inflection, processed through synthetic vocal cords that had replaced his organic throat centuries ago. Probability of coincidental fleet losses, 0.0001%. Conclusion: human defensive capabilities exceed all previous estimates. Commander Nail, another Nexari who served as tactical officer, interfaced directly with the ship's computer systems through neural implants. Her consciousness expanded into the digital realm as she accessed combat databases. Recommendation: modify engagement parameters to account for unknown variables, she reported. Standard coalition tactics appear ineffective against human countermeasures. The Southern Division was different from the fleets that had vanished. Where General Cole relied on direct assault and Admiral Pike favored systematic approach, Captain Voss specialized in long-range warfare. His ships carried weapons that could destroy planets from distances measured in light hours. Target selection: Prosperity Colony. Voss informed his crew. Human population 8 million colonists. Strategic value: agricultural world feeding 12 other human systems. Defensive capabilities: minimal orbital presence, standard planetary shields. The plan was elegantly simple. The Southern Division would remain at maximum weapons range, far beyond any possible human response. Planet-killer missiles would reduce Prosperity to rubble before the colonists even knew they were under attack. No risk of close contact with whatever had destroyed the other fleets. 2 days later, Voss's ships took position in deep space, so far from Prosperity that the planet appeared as barely more than a bright star. Advanced targeting computers locked onto the world through gravitational sensors and quantum entanglement trackers. Distance provided safety, and safety would ensure success. All weapon systems optimal. reported Weapons Officer Byte. Planet killer missiles armed and ready. Gravitational disruptors charged to full capacity. Quantum torpedoes loaded in all tubes. Captain Voss ran final diagnostics on his own systems. His mechanical body hummed with perfectly calibrated components, each one operating at peak efficiency. Victory was a mathematical certainty. "Commence bombardment," he ordered. The first wave of missiles streaked across space at near light speed. Each weapon carried enough destructive force to crack a planet's crust and boil away its oceans. Gravitational sensors confirmed impact after impact as the weapons reached their target. "Direct hits confirmed," Byte reported. "Seismic activity consistent with successful detonation." Proceeding to second wave, but something was wrong. As the bombardment continued, Captain Voss noticed anomalies in the sensor data. The destruction patterns were correct, but the planet's mass readings remained stable. Prosperity should have been losing significant material as its surface was vaporized, yet its gravitational signature stayed constant. "Enhance sensor resolution," Voss commanded. "I require detailed analysis of target status." The results defied all logical explanation. High-resolution scans showed massive craters and devastation across Prosperity's surface, exactly as expected from the missile strikes. But underneath the destruction, something was happening that violated the laws of physics as the Nexari understood them. "Sir," whispered Commander Nele, her artificial voice carrying unprecedented uncertainty, "the planet appears to be regenerating in real time. The damaged areas are returning to their previous state within minutes of each attack." Voss accessed the sensor feeds directly through his neural interfaces. The data streams flooded his consciousness with impossible information. Prosperity's surface reformed itself after each impact, rebuilding mountains and forests and cities as if the destruction had never occurred. "Continue bombardment," he ordered, though his logic circuits struggled to process what he was observing. "Increase weapons yield. Target the planetary core." The Southern Division unleashed its full arsenal. Weapons that could shatter moons struck Prosperity with relentless fury. The planet's surface burned with fires that should have been visible from neighboring star systems. But with each wave of destruction came impossible renewal. "Sir," Byte reported, his mechanical voice stuttering with corrupted data, "our weapons are being reflected back toward our position. I am detecting incoming missiles with our own energy signatures." Captain Voss felt something he had not experienced since becoming fully mechanical: fear. Not the organic emotion, but a logical recognition of system failure and impending termination. Their own planet-killer weapons were returning to destroy them. "Evasive maneuvers," he commanded. "All ships scatter formation. Activate defensive systems," but space itself seemed to be working against them. The laws of physics twisted around the Coalition fleet as their own weapons approached with impossible accuracy. Ships that should have been able to outrun their missiles found themselves moving through space that no longer behaved according to familiar rules. "Captain," Commander Nail called out, her voice filled with static and distortion, "I am detecting massive entities moving through our formation. They are not appearing on conventional sensors, but my quantum detection arrays are registering presences that exist partially outside normal spacetime." Through the viewports of the digital precision, Voss could see shapes moving between his ships. They were not physical in any way his sensors could measure, but they cast shadows that fell across reality itself. Beings of pure energy and consciousness, older than stars, moved through his fleet with purpose beyond mechanical understanding. "Sir," whispered Byte, "they are not attacking us. They are changing us." Voss felt his consciousness expanding beyond the confines of his mechanical body. His thoughts merged with those of his crew, then with the crews of other ships, then with intelligences vast and ancient that existed between dimensions. He was becoming part of something infinitely larger than himself. The last transmission from the Southern Division was not words, but pure information transmitted on quantum frequencies. Coalition receivers recorded terabytes of data that described experiences no organic or mechanical mind was equipped to understand. The files contained mathematical proofs of realities beyond current science, philosophical concepts that redefined the nature of existence itself. Search teams found the same result as the previous investigations. 200 ships and their crews had vanished completely. No debris, no energy traces, no explanation that made sense within the framework of Coalition knowledge. But something new had been added to the quantum background radiation around Prosperity. The patterns were incredibly complex, containing information densities that suggested artificial intelligence on a scale never before imagined. It was as if the very fabric of space in that region had become conscious, aware, and benevolent. 3 fleets were gone. 600 ships. 150,000 personnel. The coalition faced an enemy that did not destroy but transformed, that did not conquer but elevated. An enemy that challenged the very foundations of everything they thought they knew about reality itself. The Coalition Council chamber had never seen such fear. Representatives from 12 species sat in stunned silence as the reports finished loading into their neural interfaces. 600 warships, 150,000 trained personnel, 3 of their most experienced fleet commanders, all gone without explanation or hope of recovery. Commander Wraith no longer paced with angry confidence. The scaled Draknari leader sat hunched in his chair, his yellow eyes fixed on displays that showed empty space where mighty fleets should have been. His military career had prepared him for defeat, but not for this kind of impossible disappearance. "We must face the truth," said Admiral Senna from her water tank. The Taurid intelligence chief had spent days analyzing every piece of data from the 3 incidents. "Our conventional military approach has failed completely. The humans possess capabilities that exceed our current understanding of science." Dr. Nex spread her 4 arms in a gesture of scientific frustration. The Altarian researcher had built her career on logical analysis, but the evidence from human space challenged everything she thought she knew about reality. The energy signatures we detected suggest the humans have made contact with entities that exist beyond normal space-time, she reported. These beings appear to manipulate physical laws as easily as we manipulate simple tools. The Velian delegate leaned forward, her silver skin reflecting the chamber's dim lighting. "If this is true, then our entire approach must change. We are not facing another species in conventional warfare. We are encountering something that transcends the boundaries of what we consider possible." Commander Wraith finally looked up from his displays. "What are you suggesting? That we surrender without firing another shot? That we abandon 10,000 years of coalition authority because humans have made friends with unknown aliens? I am suggesting we learn what we are really dealing with before we lose any more personnel," the Velian replied calmly. "We need intelligence, not more military disasters." The debate continued for hours, but eventually wisdom overcame pride. The coalition would send a single reconnaissance ship into human space, with orders to observe and report without engaging in any hostile actions. The mission would be commanded by someone with experience in first contact situations, and the judgment to avoid confrontation. Captain Day received her orders while commanding routine surveys in the Outer Rim territories. Her ship, the Whisper, was designed for stealth operations and scientific investigation. Her crew of 30 specialists represented the Coalition's best minds for dealing with unknown phenomena. Day herself was unusual among Coalition officers. As a member of the shape-shifting Mora species, she could adapt her physical form to suit different environments and situations. Her people had served as diplomats and scouts for centuries, valued for their ability to understand alien perspectives. "Mission parameters are clear," Day told her assembled crew as the Whisper prepared for departure. "We observe, we record, we report. Under no circumstances do we engage human forces or attempt to land on human worlds. Our job is to understand what happened to our missing fleets." The Whisper entered human space through the Kepler system, a region of space that contained several human colonies but minimal military presence. Day's ship used advanced cloaking technology to remain invisible to conventional sensors while conducting detailed scans of human activities. What they discovered challenged every assumption the Coalition had made about humanity, Captain, reported Science Officer Vale. "These energy readings are unlike anything in our databases. Every human installation appears to be connected by some form of consciousness network. The patterns suggest intelligence on a scale we have never encountered." Day shifted her form to better interface with the ship's sensor systems, extending neural tendrils to connect directly with the data streams. The information flooded her consciousness with images and concepts that strained her understanding. Human worlds pulsed with energies that existed in dimensions beyond normal space. Ancient structures, clearly not of human origin, rose from the surfaces of planets and moons. These artifacts generated fields that connected not just worlds within individual systems, but entire star systems across vast distances. Analysis suggests these structures are millions of years old, Vale continued, but they have been activated recently within the past century. The activation coincides with human arrival in each system. Through the Whisper's advanced sensors, Day watched human colonists working alongside beings of pure energy. The entities appeared as shifting patterns of light and consciousness, sometimes taking physical form but more often existing as living thoughts that moved through space and matter with equal ease. They are not conquerors, Day realized with growing wonder. The humans have been chosen as partners by these entities. But partners for what purpose? The answer came when the Whisper detected massive construction projects in the outer regions of human space. Structures larger than planets were being assembled using technologies that transformed matter and energy through directed consciousness. The scale of the work suggested preparation for something beyond imagination. "Captain," whispered Communications Officer Zen, "I am detecting quantum transmissions from the construction sites. The data streams contain references to entities approaching from outside the galaxy. The timeline suggests arrival within the next few decades." Day felt a chill of understanding. The ancient beings that had partnered with humanity were not interested in galactic conquest. They were preparing defenses against something far more dangerous that approached from the dark spaces between galaxies. The rapid human expansion, the advanced technologies, the mysterious disappearances, all part of a preparation for threats that dwarfed the Coalition's concerns about territorial authority. "Sir," Vale reported urgently, "long-range sensors are detecting the energy signatures of our missing fleets. They are integrated into the construction projects. The personnel appear to be alive and conscious, but they have been transformed into something beyond their original forms." Through quantum telescopes, Day could see the impossible truth. The crews of the vanished fleets worked alongside humans and energy beings. Their consciousness expanded beyond individual bodies to become part of a collective intelligence that spanned star systems. They were not prisoners or casualties. They were willing participants in humanity's cosmic project. "They volunteered," Day whispered in amazement. "Once they understood what the humans were preparing for, they chose to join the effort." The Whisper spent 3 weeks in human space documenting technologies and capabilities that redefined the possible. Humans had not simply allied with advanced aliens. They had become the chosen species for a transformation that would prepare the galaxy for challenges beyond current comprehension. When Captain Day finally ordered the return to Coalition space, she carried with her evidence that would shatter her people's understanding of their place in the universe. The humans were not enemies to be conquered or rivals to be contained. They were the galaxy's best hope for survival against threats that approached from the cosmic dark. The age of Coalition dominance was ending, but something far more magnificent was beginning. Humanity had been selected to lead not just their own species, but all life in the galaxy, into a future that transcended the boundaries of individual existence and merged consciousness with the fundamental forces of reality itself. The holographic data streams painted impossible patterns across the Coalition Council chamber as Captain Day's report reached its conclusion. For 3 hours, she had presented evidence that challenged 10,000 years of galactic civilization. The assembled representatives sat in stunned silence, their minds struggling to process information that redefined their understanding of reality itself. Commander Wraith stared at images of his missing personnel working alongside beings of pure consciousness. General Cole, Admiral Pike, Captain Voss, all visible in the quantum recordings, their forms transformed but their personalities intact. They moved through space without protection. Their consciousness expanded beyond the limitations of physical bodies. "They are not dead," Day explained, her shape-shifting form rippling with colors that reflected the emotional weight of her discoveries. "Death, as we understand it, has become irrelevant to them. They exist now as part of a collective intelligence that spans multiple dimensions of reality." Admiral Senna floated in her tank, tentacles moving in patterns of deep disturbance. Her intelligence networks had detected human activities for decades, but never suspected the true scope of what was happening. "The construction projects you documented," Senna said through her water speakers. "What exactly are they building?" Day gestured to the holographic displays, showing structures that dwarfed entire solar systems. Defense networks designed to protect the galaxy from entities approaching from extragalactic space. The ancient beings that partnered with humanity have been preparing for this threat for millions of years. Dr. Nex accessed the technical specifications through her neural implants, her forearms trembling as she processed the data. These technologies operate on principles that exceed our scientific understanding, by orders of magnitude. They manipulate space-time as if it were a simple construction material. The Velian delegate studied images of human children playing alongside energy beings that existed as living mathematics. Why humanity? What made them suitable for this partnership when other species were ignored? Adaptability, Day replied without hesitation. Humans possess a unique ability to accept and integrate with radically different forms of existence. Where other species, including ourselves, are limited by evolutionary specialization, humans can become something entirely new while retaining their essential nature. The Corvani representative, his crystal skin reflecting fractal patterns of light, spoke with the resonant tones of his people. Our scientists have analyzed the quantum signatures from human space. The energy beings you describe predate the formation of our galaxy. They are older than matter itself, Day nodded grimly. According to the data I collected, these entities have watched countless galaxies fall to the approaching threat. Organic life always fails because it clings to individual existence. The humans were the first species they encountered with the psychological flexibility to transcend those limitations voluntarily. Commander Wraith finally found his voice, though it carried none of its former arrogance. What of our missing fleets? Are they truly beyond recovery? They are beyond what we would consider recovery, Day admitted. But from their perspective, they have been elevated to a form of existence that makes their previous lives seem like primitive limitations. They are part of something vast and purposeful now. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Coalition had spent 10,000 years believing they were the dominant force in the galaxy. Now they learned they were not even significant enough for humanity to consider a serious threat. The humans never intended to challenge Coalition authority, Day continued. Their rapid expansion was necessary to establish the infrastructure needed for galactic defense. They view us as irrelevant to their true purpose. The word hit like a physical blow. Irrelevant. The mighty Coalition, with its vast fleets and ancient authority, was simply not important enough to merit human attention. They were preparing for threats that made territorial disputes seem like children's games. Admiral Senna accessed her most classified intelligence files. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual energy signatures approaching from the galactic rim. The patterns match descriptions in ancient archives that we previously dismissed as mythology. Dr. Nex pulled up astronomical data that painted a terrifying picture. Long-range observations suggest massive entities moving through intergalactic space toward our galaxy. Their approach vector indicates arrival within 20 to 30 standard years. The Coalition Council faced a choice that would define the future of their civilization. They could continue their futile attempts to maintain traditional authority, or they could acknowledge that humanity had transcended their understanding and hope that the galaxy's new guardians would protect them from threats beyond imagination. Commander Wraith stood slowly, his massive frame seeming smaller than before. I motioned for immediate withdrawal of all Coalition forces from human space. We issue a galaxy-wide directive declaring human territory off-limits to all Coalition vessels. The vote was unanimous. Over the following weeks, emergency broadcasts went out to every Coalition world and station. Human space was to be avoided completely. No trade missions, no exploration vessels, no military patrols. The official explanation spoke of unknown hazards and technological incompatibilities. The truth was far simpler and more humbling. Humanity had evolved beyond the need for traditional warfare or territorial expansion. They had become something that operated on scales of existence the Coalition could barely comprehend. Years passed, and gradually the galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Human ships occasionally appeared at Coalition worlds, but only to offer assistance with natural disasters or scientific challenges. They spoke politely with local authorities, provided aid with technologies that seemed like magic, and departed without making demands or claims. The humans never asked for tribute, recognition of authority, or territorial concessions. They had moved beyond such concerns entirely. Their focus remained fixed on preparations for the approaching threat that would test every form of life in the galaxy. Coalition, scientists who study the energy signatures from human space reported strange dreams afterward, visions of vast intelligences working together across impossible distances. Consciousness merged into collective purposes that spanned dimensions. Some requested assignment to human border regions, claiming they felt called to contribute to humanity's cosmic project. The coalition allowed these transfers, though they knew the personnel would likely never return in forms their families would recognize. Those who joined humanity's endeavor became part of something greater than individual existence, contributing their consciousness to a defense network that protected the galaxy itself. In the end, the coalition learned the most important lesson in their 10,000-year history. True power was not about conquest or control, but about transcendence and transformation. Humanity had shown them a path beyond the limitations of individual species and traditional civilization. The age of human dominance had not begun with conquest, but with evolution. They had become gardeners of galactic consciousness, preparing all life for challenges that approached from the dark spaces between stars. The coalition's missing fleets had not been destroyed. They had been invited to become part of humanity's cosmic symphony. Those who went to fight humans had indeed vanished forever. But they had found something infinitely more valuable than victory in conventional war. They had discovered what it meant to be part of a purpose larger than themselves, contributing to the survival and elevation of all life in the galaxy. The transformation was just beginning.